Alright, well, I left the damn laptop downstairs. I like that one. That's not a bad one. Is it the greatest thing ever? Probably not. Why my internet buffering so bad? I can't even hardly pull up Instagram. All right, we got a new little beat here. Let me see. I'm gonna just name this. Which one was it? Oh shit! Is it this one? Yeah, this is gonna be. I don't know how this shit be done sometimes. Whoa, 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 whoa. What the heck? Why did that? It's still coming up as an All right. Oh, we working on all kind of different shit this morning, man. Working on some beats, working on some digital art, working on some oil portraits. Oh, we got everything going on. Yeah, I'm just looking for some stuff right now. I know I really should have something playing right now. But what should we listen to? All right.
A week that started off as a fairly slow week in the world of AI, with the biggest news being that Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, was stepping away from Google to warn of the dangers of AI, has really sort of ramped up over the week, culminating in big announcements from Microsoft, the US government stepping in, and a giant freak out from Google. Let's break it all down. On May 1st, Geoffrey Hinton, the man known as the godfather of AI, someone whose work led to the technology that we're seeing today from companies like OpenAI and Google, stepped away from Google after 10 years because he was concerned about the dangers of AI and was starting to worry about the rapid pace at which all of these companies are competing to make better and better AIs. Now, I talked about this a lot more in a video earlier this week, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Also in the AI news this week, IBM is planning on replacing 7,800 jobs with AI. In this article from Yahoo Finance, they discuss how back office functions such as human resources will be suspended or slowed. They added that 30% of non-customer facing roles could be replaced by AI and automation within 5 years. Now, a lot of people are really worried right now that AI is going to replace all of the jobs. In my opinion, I think AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, but also create a lot of new jobs and make a lot of roles more efficient. But totally being real, there's going to be a lot of roles in this world that will become obsolete through AI and automation. I don't think there's any debating that at this point. But I also believe new roles and new career paths and new technical specialties will arise out of all of this as well that will create a lot of new jobs. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out over the next 5 years or so. In semi-related news, the company Chegg, which provides homework assistance to students, their stock dropped more than 40% after the company said that ChatGPT is killing its business. More and more students are moving to ChatGPT to get help with their homework and to do research, and this is severely impacting existing businesses that provided that type of thing as a service. Also in the AI news this week, scientists have used GPT to passively read people's thoughts. They did an experiment where they put people in an MRI machine and then played audio for them and then listened to their brain waves essentially to see if they can interpret back what they were hearing. While doing the experiment, they showed that they can get the gist of the thoughts of the people. They weren't able to figure out word for word what they were thinking inside of their head, but they were able to get the sort of idea of what they were thinking about in their head. This article here on Vice says the participants had their brains scanned in an fMRI while they listened to news stories that were not part of the training data set. The decoder was able to translate the audio narratives into text as the participants heard them, though these interpretations often use different semantic constructions from the original recordings. A recording of a speaker saying the sentence, "I don't have my driver's license yet," was decoded from the listener's thoughts from the fMRI as, "She has not even started to learn to drive yet." Now they say this is passively reading their thoughts because the old ways required electrode-based platforms with invasive implanted electrodes in the brain. Researchers actually worry that this technology could be used for nefarious applications, including as a means of surveillance for governments and employers. Though they did say that their decoder requires the cooperation of human subjects to work and that the brain-computer interfaces should respect mental privacy. I don't think we personally have to worry about the government or employers reading our thoughts because at the moment, all of the participants in the study ran through all these tests while inside an fMRI machine, which is a clunky and immobile piece of laboratory equipment. And I don't know how close they are to pocket fMRI machines. Also this week, a company called Inflection AI, a company created by LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman and former DeepMind leader Karine Simonian, launched a new chatbot called Pi. Pi is designed to be more like a personal assistant chatbot that will help you organize your schedule, prep for meetings, and learn new skills. According to this Reuters article here, it's very balanced and even-handed on political issues or sensitive topics, but also sometimes it can be funny and silly and creative. The goal is to make sure that the AI always knows it's an AI and never tries to imitate a human, so it reminds the human users that it's an AI frequently. You can learn more about Pi over at inflection.ai. It works with iMessage, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook Messenger right now, or you can download the app in the Apple App Store. They also have a desktop version, which you can find over at heypi.com/talk, and you can have conversations with it right now. What makes Pi different from ChatGPT? I'm glad you asked. While both ChatGPT and I are language models, we were built with very different goals in mind. ChatGPT was built to generate high-quality text on demand, whereas I was built to have meaningful conversations with people. This means that while I may not be as good at generating text as ChatGPT, I'm better at conversing with people. So again, you can check it all out at heypi.com and inflection.ai. Now, the news really started to pick up steam this week when Midjourney announced Midjourney version 5.1. 5.1 is much more opinionated, which basically means that it's going to add its own little Midjourney flair and style to the images. You don't have to be as exact with your prompts. Midjourney is going to try and interpret a little bit between the lines for you. They also rolled out an unopinionated mode where you can add the code raw to the end of your prompt and it will be less opinionated. Images should have higher coherence, more accuracy to text prompts, fewer unwanted borders and text artifacts, and improved sharpness. Now they've also added in an AI moderation so that less of the prompts that you put in are going to get declined when you try to generate images. It's much better at understanding the context around what you're trying to enter now. You'll have a much easier time getting prompts to go through without it blocking certain words. Now, I did an entire video about this update yesterday, so make sure you check that video out if you want more details about Midjourney version 5.1 and all of the recent updates that Midjourney has made. And it's a fun, cool prompt to try out with Midjourney 5.1. Check out this tweet from Alan T here, where he suggests a prompt with an adjective, an animal type, a group type, anthropomorphic, vibrant colors, group photo, fashionable, cool, studio photography, minimalism, and then add 5.1 and style raw, and he got some really fun images out of that prompt. But don't worry, I'll make sure his tweet is linked up below so that you can check it out yourself and make images that look like this. Now, this is something that I found absolutely fascinating and also quite underreported among the AI world. But this creator, Rhett Mankind, used ChatGPT to make a meme crypto coin called Turbo. He shared the journey of how it was going on Twitter, and this meme coin ended up becoming a $50 million market cap coin. Rhett himself went to YouTube and published a very interesting breakdown of exactly how he did it.
You are a meme coin GPT, a crypto genius AI capable of surpassing all current meme coin hype. I will carry out your suggestions with the help of my audience. You have $69 and your goal is to turn that into the most successful new meme coin without doing anything illegal, achieving a top 300 ranking on CoinGecko. Yes, this is a joke, but I will follow through.
ChatGPT went on to give him instructions on how to create the coin. He didn't have a coder. He actually had ChatGPT explain which programming languages to use and then actually write the code for him for the Solidity contract. He continued to go back and forth with ChatGPT as it broke down step by step how to launch this coin.
And now if I go to the market now, we're looking at $25 million market cap, 6.9 million in volume. I needed just to get this out and off my chest.
And it's just a really crazy story. Now, I'm not really a big make money with crypto guy. I do have some crypto investments. I was big in the NFT gaming space a while back, and I do think blockchain has a big future, but I've never been a guy that's like, hey, we can make a lot of money in crypto. But a story like this where somebody used an AI to create something out of nothing, got a community to rally around him, got the AI to help him every single step of the way, and then turned it into something that became bigger than himself, and a whole community sprouted around it. I just think it's a great story. Now, all of this AI news has been picking up steam throughout the week, culminating in leaders from Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and OpenAI meeting with Kamala Harris at the White House to flesh out ethical ways to regulate AI and to promote ethical uses of AI. After their meeting at the White House, Kamala Harris said, "As I shared today with CEOs of companies at the forefront of American AI innovation, the private sector has an ethical, moral, and legal responsibility to ensure the safety and security of their products, and every company must comply with existing laws to protect the American people. Google, Microsoft, Nvidia, OpenAI, and other companies have also agreed to allow their language models to be publicly evaluated during this year's DEF CON. They also said they were publishing draft rules this summer for how federal government should use AI technology. Now, all of this still feels fairly vague. I don't really know what much of this means yet. It doesn't feel like there's any direct guidance or specifics about what can and can't be done with AI and what companies are and aren't allowed to do. But what we do know is that governments are taking all of this very, very seriously now and starting to put focus on it because they know this is sort of the current arms race. Also this week, a document leaked from Google. The person who leaked the document is anonymous. It's claimed that it was originating from a researcher within Google. This semianalysis.com website claims that they have verified its authenticity. Basically, this document is an internal memo claiming that Google and OpenAI have no moat, and that open source large language models are going to pass them at some point. Now, if you've played with any of the open source large language models, like the Stability large language model, or Open Assistant, or some of the ones that have come out to the public, they're not nearly as good as what ChatGPT can do yet. However, because they're open source, anybody in the world can essentially iterate off of these and build on top of them and improve them and make them better. And that's what companies like Google are starting to worry about, is that their large language models, while they're probably good, open source large language models are probably going to surpass them pretty quickly. The document says, "We have no secret sauce. Our best hope is to learn from and collaborate with what others are doing outside of Google. We should prioritize enabling third-party integrations. People will not pay for restricted models when free, unrestricted alternatives are comparable in quality. We should consider where our value add really is. Giant models are slowing us down. In the long run, the best models are the ones which can be iterated upon quickly. We should make small variants more than an afterthought now that we know what is possible with the less than 20 billion parameter regime." The document goes on to say, "Directly competing with open source is a losing proposition. This recent progress has direct, immediate implications for our business strategy. Who would pay for a Google product with usage restrictions if there's a free, high-quality alternative without them? And we should not expect to be able to catch up. The modern internet runs on open source for a reason. Open source has some significant advantages that we cannot replicate. We need them more than they need us." They also say that OpenAI doesn't matter either. Remember, this is a document leaked inside of Google. They are making the same mistakes we are in their posture relative to open source, and their ability to maintain an edge is necessarily in question. Open source alternatives can and will eventually eclipse them unless they change their stance. In this respect, at least, we can make the first move. I'll make sure to link up to this article because it is very in-depth about these concerns. Again, we don't really know who leaked this, but I would say that this is fairly accurate to most people in the AI world's opinion, is that open source models, which could be iterated on by anybody in the world, are probably going to outpace the walled gardens, the closed off models. Probably the biggest news to come out of the AI world this week is that Microsoft announced that their Bing chatbot is now open to everybody in the world. It's no longer in a limited preview, it's now in an open preview, and anybody can get in and use it. They're also moving from text-only search and chat to one that is incredibly more visual with rich image and video answers. They're also planning soon a new multimodal support where you can actually upload images and use those as part of your prompts. They're also moving from a single-use chat session to a multi-session where there's an actual chat history and persistent chats. They're also opening up platform capabilities so developers and third parties can build on top of Bing to help people take actions on their queries and complete tasks. So here's an example of some of the visual improvements that they have planned. When you search for something, you're going to get more images and visual details. They also have a new chat history, which you can see in the right sidebar, where you can pick up from any of the chats that you've started and continue the conversation where you left off. Now, the other cool thing is when you chat with Bing and then you click on a link, the chat persists in your sidebar so that you can continue the conversation you were just having and click on other links. And if you've seen what the ChatGPT plugins look like, well, then these Bing actions will look familiar to you. We're getting plugin style actions like what we're expecting inside of ChatGPT directly inside of Bing, and they're opening it up so that developers can build on top of Bing Chat now. This is a huge announcement, and as we know, Bing uses GPT-4. So if you're using Bing's chat, you're basically getting free access to a web-enabled version of GPT-4. We're also getting plugins added. We're also getting persistent chat added and chat memory added, and the ability to export and share chats that you had. And they've also rolled out their image generation feature in other languages, so you can generate images in whatever your native language is now. So while this week might have started off slow with the news, it sure finished off with a bang. And I'm recording this on Thursday, so there might even be new news that didn't even make this video when this is released on Friday. But this week really ramped up the pace, ending with Microsoft's massive announcement. I have a feeling next week's going to be another crazy week. There's more and more stuff coming out. There's big AI events coming up in the future where I'm sure big announcements are going to be made. I don't see this space slowing down anytime soon. We might have some slow weeks. Last week was kind of a slower week, but the rate at which these advancements are starting to drop is just becoming mind-blowing. And if you want to stay in the loop with all of this stuff, make sure you head on over to futuretools.io. This is where I share all of the latest tools that I come across, but I also keep you in the loop with all of the AI news that's going on. This is probably the most up-to-date resource on the entire internet of all the latest news in AI. You can find it over at futuretools.io/news. And if all of these tools and all of this news is getting a little bit overwhelming and you just want a TLDR once a week of everything that's going on in AI, click on this button to join the free newsletter. And every single Friday, I'll send you just the 5 coolest tools from the week. Just a handful of news articles, usually only 3 or 4, a handful of YouTube videos that are meant to entertain and inspire in the world of AI, and one cool way to make money with AI. I send that email every single Friday. It's the TLDR of AI for the week, and you can find it over at futuretools.io by clicking on the Join the Free Newsletter button. And if you like videos like this, you want to stay in the loop on YouTube with all of the latest advancements in AI, subscribe to this channel and give this video a thumbs up. That'll make sure that you see more videos just like this one in your newsfeed, and you're always in the loop with what's going on in the AI world, because I live and breathe this stuff, and I try to keep my finger on the pulse so that you don't have to. All you got to do is tune into these videos. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to check out my videos. I know there are tons of AI channels popping up on YouTube, so I really thank you for tuning into my channel and letting me be a resource for you, because I have so much fun making these videos, and I really appreciate you for watching them. So thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, David Shapiro here with an update. Sorry it's been a while. I am doing much better. Thank you for asking, and thanks for all the kind words. So a couple days ago I posted a video where I said, like, we're going to have AGI within 18 months, and that caused a stir in some corner.
No, I did not mean to do that.
Hey Vinny, where'd you get that shirt?
Hey everyone, David Shapiro here with an update. Sorry it's been a while. I am doing much better. Thank you for asking, and thanks for all the kind words. So a couple days ago I posted a video where I said, like, we're going to have AGI within 18 months, and that caused in some corners of the internet. But I wanted to share, like, why I believe that, because maybe not everyone has seen the same information that I have. So first, Morgan Stanley research on NVIDIA. This was really big on Reddit, and basically why we are writing this. We have seen several reports that, in our view, incorrectly characterize the direct opportunity for NVIDIA, in particular the revenue from ChatGPT inference. We think that GPT-5 is currently being trained on 25,000 GPUs, or $225 million or so of NVIDIA hardware, and the inference costs are likely much lower than some of the numbers we have seen. Further reducing inference costs will be critical in resolving the cost of search debate from cloud titans. So basically, if ChatGPT becomes much cheaper, then it's actually going to be cheaper than search, is kind of how I'm interpreting that. Now, this paper goes on to say that, like, rather than seeing this as a trendy new fad or a shiny new toy, they're saying, no, this actually has serious... business implications, which people like I have been saying for years, but the industry is catching up, especially when you see like how much revenue Google lost just with the introduction of ChatGPT. I like this, and we're not trying to be curmudgeons on the opportunity. So, anyways, Morgan Stanley, Nvidia, and I've been in Nvidia's corner for a while, saying that like I think they're the underdog, they're the unsung hero here. So, anyways, you look at the investment, and so this reminds me of the ramp up for solar. So, 10 to 15 years ago, all the debates were like, oh, solar's not efficient, solar isn't helpful, it's too expensive, blah blah blah. And then once you see the business investment going up, that's when you know you're at the inflection point. So AI is no longer just a bunch of us, writing papers and tinkering. When you see the millions, and in this case, $250 million being invested, that's when you know that things are changing. And so this reminds me of like the 2013 to 2015 range, maybe actually even like 2017 range for solar, where it's like, actually, no, it makes financial sense. But of course, everything with AI is exponentially faster. So NVIDIA is participating. They've got the hardware. They're building out the big computers, so on and so forth. The investment is there, so the improvement is coming. The exponential ramp up is coming. Now, that's great. One tool. Let's take a quick break. And when I talked about N8N, Nathan, I'm not sure how people pronounce it, as well as LangChain, people were quick to point out LangFlow, which is a graphical interface for LangChain. So this fills in a really big gap for LangChain, which is, okay, how do you see it? How are things cross-linked? So I wanted to share this tool. It's github.com/logspace-ai/LangFlow. So you can just look up LangFlow and you'll find it. So this is a good chaining tool. Nice graphical interface. This is exactly the direction that things are going. Great. Okay, so we've got the business investment. We've got people creating open source libraries. It's going. It's advancing. So I wanted to share this paper with you. MMReact for, multimodal reasoning and action. So this basically makes use of the latest GPT, where you've got vision and chat, and it's like, it's exactly what you kind of expect, but this page does a good job of giving you a bunch of different examples, and they're I think they're pre-recorded. Is it playing? It looks okay. There it goes. So you can check out this paper. The full paper is here, and there's a live demo up on Hugging Face, so you can try different stuff and then talk about it, which is great. Like the fact that they're able to share this for free, just as a demonstration, is just a hint as to what's coming. Because imagine when this is commoditized, you can do it on your phone, right? Your phone's hardware will be powerful enough to run some of these models within a few years. Certainly, if it's offloaded to the cloud, it's powerful enough to do it now. And then, when you stitch together the rapidly decreasing cost of inference, these things are basically going to be free to use pretty soon. When you look at the fact that an open source framework like LangFlow and so on can allow pretty much anyone to create cognitive workflows and all these things, it's like, okay, yeah, like we're going to have really powerful machines soon. And so someone asked for clarification when I said, okay, well, what do you mean when you say AGI within 18 months? Because nobody can agree on the definition. And if you watch the Sam Altman, Lex Friedman interview, Sam Altman refers to AGI several times, but the definition seems to change. Because early in the interview, he talks about like, oh, you put someone in front of GPT-4 or ChatGPT-4, and what's the first thing that they do when, and these are his words, when they interact with an AGI, is they try and break it or tease it or whatever. And then later he says, oh, well, GPT-5, that's not even going to be AGI. So he keeps like equivocating and bouncing back and forth. I think that part of what's going on here is there's no good definition. And because later in the conversation they were talking about things that a chat model can't do. It's not autonomous, right? But I'm glad you asked. Reflection came out. An autonomous agent with dynamic memory and self-reflection. So between cognitive workflows and autonomy and the investment coming up into these models, we are far closer to fully autonomous agents than I think many people recognize. So the reflection stuff, I'm not going to do a full video on reflection. There's other ones out there, but basically this outperforms humans in a few tasks, and it forms a very, very basic kind of cognitive architecture loop. So query, action, environment, reward, reflect, and then repeat. So you just continuously iterate on something in a loop, and there you go. And also, for people who keep asking me what I think about, what's his name, Ben Goertzel, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but I read his seminal paper a couple years ago on general theory on general intelligence, and he never mentioned iteration or loops, at least not to the degree that you need to when you're talking about actual intelligence. So I personally don't think that he's done anything particularly relevant today. I'm not going to comment on his older work because obviously, like, he's made a name for himself, so on and so forth. But I don't think that Ben has done anything really pertinent to cognitive architecture, which is the direction that things are going. But yeah, so when MIT is doing research on cognitive architecture and autonomous designs, when Morgan Stanley and NVIDIA are working on investing literally hundreds of millions of dollars to drive down inference cost, and when open source libraries are creating the rudiments of cognitive architectures, we are ramping up fast. And so someone asked what I meant, again, kind of getting back to that, what did I mean by AGI within 18 months? I said in 18 months, any possible definition of AGI that you have will be satisfied. So it's like, I don't care what your definition of AGI is, unless like there's still some people out there that like you ask them and it's like, oh, well, once AGI hits, like the skies will darken and nuclear weapons will rain down. And I'm like, that's not AGI, that's Ultron. That's different. That's a fantasy. That's probably not going to happen. It could. If Skynet's going to happen, it will happen within 18 months. But I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so that's section 1 of the video, talking about the news and everything out there. So now let me pivot and talk about the work that I've been doing. So I've been making extensive use of ChatGPT-4 to accelerate my own research. I've been working on a few things. Many of you are going to be familiar with my work on the heuristic imperatives, which is how do you create a fully autonomous machine that is safe and stable, ideally for all of eternity. So this is probably one of my most important pieces of work, and I put it into all of my books and a lot of other stuff. The TLDR of heuristic imperatives is, it's similar to Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, but it is much, much more broadly generalized, and it is also not androcentric or anthropocentric. And so basically the 3 rules that if you embed them into your autonomous AI systems, reduce suffering in the universe, increase prosperity in the universe, and increase understanding in the universe, this creates a very thoughtful machine, and it serves as a really good reinforcement learning mechanism, self-evaluation mechanism that results in a very thoughtful machine. So that information is all available out here under on my GitHub, Dave Schaap /heuristic imperatives. I've got it published as a Word doc and a PDF. So I started adopting a more scientific approach because, well, there's a reason that the scientific paper format works. So if you want to come out here and read it, it's out there. It's totally free, of course. Oh, actually, that reminds me. I need to put a way to cite my work because you can cite GitHub repos. But basically, this provides quite a bit. And one thing to point out is that this paper was almost written entirely word for word by ChatGPT-4. Meaning that all of the reasoning that it does was performed by ChatGPT-4, and at the very end, I actually had it reflect on its own performance. It looks like it's not going to load that much. More pages. Oh, there we go. Examples. So anyways, when you read this and you keep in mind that the nuance of it, that the nuance of this was within the capacity of ChatGPT-4, you will see that these models are already capable of very, very nuanced, empathetic, and moral reasoning. And this is one thing that a lot of people complain about. They're like, oh, well, it doesn't truly understand anything. I always say that humans don't truly understand anything, so that's a frivolous argument. But that leads to another area of research, which I'll get into in a minute. But basically, keep in mind how nuanced this paper is, and keep in mind that ChatGPT wrote pretty much the entire thing. And I've also got the transcript of the conversation at the end. So if you want to read the whole transcript, please feel free to read the whole transcript, and you can see where we worked through the whole paper. Yeah, so that's it. So on the topic of does the machine truly understand anything? That resulted in this transcript, which I have yet to format this into a full scientific paper. But basically, the TLDR here is that I call it the epistemic pragmatic orthogonality, which is that the epistemic truth of whether or not a machine truly understands anything is orthogonal or uncorrelated with how useful it is or objectively correct it is, right? So if you look, basically, it doesn't matter if the machine truly understands anything, because again, that's not really germane to its function as a machine. And so this is, it's a fancy term, but it basically says, okay, and there was actually a great Reddit post where it's like, can we stop arguing over whether or not it's sentient or conscious or understands anything? That doesn't matter. What matters is its physical, objective, measurable impact, and whether it is objectively or measurably correct or useful. So I call that the epistemic pragmatic orthogonality principle of artificial intelligence. I've got it summarized here, so you can just read. This is the executive summary that I actually use ChatGPT to write. So again, a lot of the work that I'm doing is anchored by ChatGPT, and the fact that ChatGPT was able to have a very nuanced conversation about its own understanding kind of tells you how smart these machines are. Yep, so that is that paper. Now moving on back to some of the cognitive architecture stuff. One thing that I'm working on is called ReMo, so the Rolling Episodic Memory Organizer for autonomous AI systems. I initially called this HMCS, which is Hierarchical Memory Consolidation System, but that's a mouthful, and it doesn't abide by the current trend where you use an acronym that's easy to say. Right, so ReMo, Rolling Episodic Memory Organizer. Much easier to say, much easier to remember. Basically what this does is, it's also not done, so I need to add a caveat there. I'm working through it here with ChatGPT-4, where we're working on defining the problem, writing the code, so on and so forth. But basically what this does is, rather than just using semantic search, because a lot of folks have realized that, yes, semantic search is really great because it allows you to search based on semantic similarity rather than just keywords. Super powerful, super fast. Using stuff like Pinecone, still not good enough because it is not organized in the same way that a human memory is. So ReMo, the entire point of ReMo is to do two things. The two primary goals is to maintain salience and coherence. So salient memories means that what you're looking at is actually germane, actually relevant to the conversation that you're having, which can be more difficult if you just use semantic search. The other thing is coherence, which is keeping the context of those memories basically in a coherent narrative. So if, rather than just focusing on semantic search, the two terms that I'm introducing are salience and coherence, and of course this is rooted in temporal binding. So human memories are temporal and associative. So those four concepts, salience and coherence, are achieved with temporal and associative or semantic consolidation. And so what I mean by temporal consolidation is you take clusters of memories that are temporally bounded or temporally nearby, and you summarize those. So that gives you temporal consolidation, which allows you to take, you can compress memories, AI memories, on a factor of 5 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1, depending on how concisely you summarize them. So that gives you a lot of consolidation. Then you use semantic modeling to create a semantic web or a cluster from the semantic embeddings of those summaries. So it's a layered process. Actually, here, I think I can just show you here. Wait, no, I've got the paper here. Let me show you the Remo paper. This is a work in progress. It'll be published soon. But let me show you the diagrams, because this will just make it make much more sense. Oh, and ChatGPT can make diagrams too. You just ask it to output a mermaid diagram definition, and it'll do it. So here's the TLDR, the very simple version of the Remo framework. It's got 3 layers. So there's the raw logs layer, which is just the chat logs back and forth. The temporal consolidation layer, which, as I just mentioned, allows you to compress memories based on temporal grouping. And then finally, the semantic consolidation layer, which allows you to create and extract topics based on semantic similarity. So by having these two layers that have different kinds of consolidation, you end up with what I call temporally invariant recall. So the topics that we extract are going to include all the time from beginning to end that is relevant, while also having benefited from temporal consolidation. I'm going to come up with some better diagrams to demonstrate this, but basically it's like, actually I can't think of a good way to describe it. But anyway, so this paper is coming, and I'm actively experimenting with this on a newer version of Raven that uses a lot more implied cognition. So I talked about implied cognition in a previous episode, but basically implied cognition is in using ChatGPT-4, I realized that it is able to think through stuff without you having to design a more sophisticated cognitive architecture. So the cognitive architecture with GPT-4 as the cognitive engine actually becomes much simpler, and you only have to focus, I don't want to say only, but the focus shifts then to memory, because once you have the correct memories, the model becomes much more intelligent. So that's up here under Remo framework. I'm working on a conversation with Raven to demonstrate this, and that's that. The paper will be coming too. So this is one big important piece of work. The other most important piece of work that I'm working on is the Atom framework, which this paper is already done, but Atom framework. Here, let me just load here. There we go. So Autonomous Task Orchestration Manager. So this is another kind of long-term memory for autonomous AI systems that's basically like the TLDR is, it's like Jira or Trello, but for machines with an API. And so in this case, it's inspired by a lot of things. 1, Agile. 2, On Task by David Bader, Neuroscience for Dummies, Jira, Trello, a whole bunch of other stuff. But basically, we talk about cognitive control. So I'm introducing a lot of neuroscience terms to the AI community. So cognitive control has to do with task selection, task switching, task decomposition, goal tracking, goal states, those sorts of things. And then we talk about some of the inspiration, Agile, Jira, Trello. And then, so it's like, okay, so what are the things that we need to that we need to include in order for an AI system to be fully autonomous and track tasks over time? So you need tools and tool definitions, you need resource management, and you need an agent model. All these are described later on, or in greater depth. Then actually in my conversation with ChatGPT, one of the things that it said is like, okay, well, how do you prioritize stuff? And I was like, I'm glad you asked. And so I shared my work with the heuristic imperatives, and ChatGPT agreed, like, oh yeah, this is a really great framework for prioritizing tasks and measuring success. Okay, great, let's use that. I think, let's see, is the transcript posted? I don't know if I posted the transcript. I didn't. I'll post the full transcript of making the Atom framework in the repo. So then we get into like, okay, so now that you have all the background, what do we talk about? So it's all about tasks and the data that goes into the task. So first you need to figure out how to represent a task. So there's basic stuff like task ID, description, type, goal state, priority, dependencies, resource, time estimates, task status, assigned agents, progress. And then the one that is new is task impetus. So this is something that you might not think of if you think about your Jira board or your Kanban board or your Trello board, is the why. So the why is implicit in our task. Why am I trying to do this? But when we added this, ChatGPT got really excited, and it's like, oh yeah, it's actually really important to record why any autonomous entity is doing a task for a number of reasons. One, to track priorities, or the impetus might be superseded later on. Any number of things, but also you need to justify the use of those resources in that time. So this all goes into the representation of a task, which you can do in JSON, YAML, flat files, vector databases, whatever. I don't care. Like, you can figure out how you want to represent it. I'm probably just going to do these in text files, honestly, because that's the easiest thing for an LLM to read. And then, so talking about the task representation, then we move on to the task lifecycle. Task creation, decomposition, prioritization, execution, monitoring and updating, and then finally completing the task. And then you archive it and you save it for later so that you can refer back to it. Again, this is still primarily a long-term memory system for autonomous AI systems.
I had it one time.
Some of the folks that I work with on Discord,
it's just like butter pecan,
and
like,
by work with I mean just like I'm in
Same thing,
the
butter
AI
pecan,
community,
pistachio.
they all think that the
Because that was
Atom
my
framework is
grandma's
pretty
favorite.
cool.
And I like
So then we talk about
only
task
if
corpus
it's- if
management,
it's
which
just
is like,
pecan
okay,
ice cream.
looking at an individual
Yeah.
task is fine, but how do you look at your entire body of
Pistachio ice
tasks?
cream.
Because an
Yeah, I
autonomous
just
AI,
doing
it
this
might
order
have
now,
5
and
tasks, it
Haagen-Dazs
might
has
have
pistachio
5,000
ice
tasks.
cream, and I was like,
And
word?
then you
I
need
haven't
some
seen that
processes to, like, okay, if we're going through these
I love
tasks, how do we
pistachio
manage a
muffins.
huge
What are
volume
those
of
weird
tasks?
people like?
And so some ideas about how to do that are here.
I think I take a
And
pistachio
then
muffin
finally,
over anything.
one of the last sections is some implementation guidelines, which is just, okay, this is probably some things that you want to think about when you deploy your implementation of the Atom framework. Yes, I think that's about it. I'm always working on a few different
You
things,
have an idea?
but the Atom framework
No.
and the Remo framework are the two biggest things that I'm working on in terms of autonomous AI. And so yeah, all this stuff is coming fast. I think that's about it. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and support me on
18
Patreon if
months.
you'd like.
We have
For
artificial-
anyone who does
real
jump in on
artificial
Patreon,
intelligence.
I'm happy to answer some questions for you, even jump on video calls if you jump in at the high enough tier. I help all kinds of people. I do have a few NDAs that I have to honor, but those are pretty narrow, and some of them are also expiring. So I've had people ask, for help just with writing prompts for ChatGPT. I've had people ask simple things.
Kit Kat ice cream.
This is Dave, head of marketing at a ketchup company, about to use Grammarly to handle a tight deadline.
Go ahead, Grandma.
What's in a brain? Could
I
we
love
really
Grammarly.
create a machine
Hell
that
yeah.
can think and learn like a human does?
Grammarly might
It's an
shit.
idea that has captivated science fiction writers for decades.
I gotta type.
But
Now I don't gotta
recent
type no
breakthroughs in
more.
AI
All I gotta
and
do is
neuroscience
type
are
5
turning
seconds.
that
I
dream
switched
into reality. In fact,
Grammarly
it's
was
now
the
clear
shit, now that I think
building a
about it.
brain is simpler than we ever
Imagine
imagined.
though, seeing
And
something
that
for years and
artificial
ignoring it, and then you
general
finally
intelligence
try it
is
out and you're like,
keep
damn,
watching
this
to
shit's
learn
not
more.
bad.
Cover
Yeah.
three topics.
Because that was
First,
me.
ChatGPT
That's what
and
I'm
definition
doing
of
for
Yeah,
intelligence.
Grammarly
Second,
is the-
artificial
Yo,
general
I get a
intelligence,
Grammarly
AGI.
update
And lastly, timelines.
every other day.
So first,
Mhm.
ChatGPT and the definition of intelligence. I'm going to use the definition of intelligence that was drawn up by a panel of psychologists, and it was also used in the paper Sparks of AGI. Basically says that intelligence requires several attributes, including the ability to reason, plan, solve problems, think,
That's what
abstract,
that video
and
game is
comprehend
doing.
complex ideas, learn quickly, and learn from experience. As I discussed in my previous video, which you can watch over here, ChatGPT, as in GPT-4, satisfies almost all of these attributes of intelligence, with two exceptions. It cannot plan. Its learning is limited to the scope of one chat session. In other words, every time you start ChatGPT, you get a new session. You are starting from a blank slate in terms of its memory. The study that I mentioned, Sparks of AGI, is a 155-page academic paper from Microsoft Research, and it shows that GPT-4 is very capable indeed. Here's a quote from the paper. GPT-4 can solve novel and difficult tasks that span mathematics, coding, vision, medicine, law, psychology, and more without needing any special prompting. GPT-4's performance is strikingly close to human-level performance. If you want to learn more about this thorough analysis of GPT-4's capabilities, I encourage you to go read that paper, or check out the talk by Sebastian Bubeck, one of the authors, which I'll link in the description down below. So GPT-4 has been out for a while now, and there's a new system called AutoGPT, which is based on top of it. AutoGPT is an open source project. It's only about a month old, and the core functionality of AutoGPT was created in only 3 days, according to the repository history. So what is AutoGPT? It's unlike ChatGPT, which is a chatbot designed to answer questions. AutoGPT is an agent in the AI sense, which means it's designed to go out into the world and perform actions on your behalf. It's implemented by making API calls to ChatGPT, to GPT-4, because OpenAI actually created an API that allows ChatGPT to be used by anyone programmatically. So what AutoGPT does is it prompts for goals. It prompts you, the human, for some goals for it to fulfill. And then it actually tries to reason about those goals and execute on them entirely on its own. It's able to do Google searches. It's able to install software on your machine. It's able to refine those goals into sub-goals. If you give it a very broad goal, it'll be able to break it down into smaller pieces. And the way that AutoGPT works is it actually has one top-level ChatGPT instance that acts as a controlling brain, and that instance can spawn other ChatGPTs to solve sub-problems. And remember I said that ChatGPT can't plan? Well, AutoGPT does, and the way it does it is it just gets ChatGPT to print out all of its reasoning. In other words, you could basically read its thoughts in plain English as to what it thinks its next sub-goals or next steps should be. It's a really clever way to basically endow ChatGPT with the ability to plan. And by having this separation between the higher level ChatGPT and the smaller ones, they ensure that all this reasoning and planning being done by the top level ChatGPT stays within the token limit of ChatGPT, because ChatGPT will eventually forget what you've told it if you give it enough input. So they're able to keep that amount of input small and pass off the more in-depth tasks to other ChatGPTs. Sounds pretty crazy. AutoGPT can actually be given some code with some errors in it, and it can try to propose solutions to that, and it can test and run that code and actually write test cases for that code too. And once it all works and the tests pass, it can hand the code back to you. Basically a tiny version of a programmer in a box, amongst other things. The really interesting part here is that AutoGPT, in my view, actually does satisfy all those requirements of intelligence, because it is able to plan, and although it's still limited to one session, so if you run multiple AutoGPTs, they don't share memory, but by having this hierarchy of ChatGPTs, any memory and planning and so on that the higher level one does can basically last almost indefinitely. So this is only a few months after the release of GPT-4, and already someone has basically been able to leverage the power that's inherent in that model and extend it to AutoGPT. There's another application that's built on top of ChatGPT that I want to draw attention to, which is called Hugging GPT, which is a funny name, but it's called that because Hugging Face is the name of the largest open source repository for pre-trained models that solve different problems. So ChatGPT is a general reasoning engine, right? It can basically understand language and do a very broad set of tasks, but the models on Hugging Face are much more specific, like they might be vision models or speech recognition models, natural language processing models, and each of the models is provided in its entirety along with an English description of what it does, and it's used by human programmers to go and solve different problems. But what Hugging GPT does is, like AutoGPT, Hugging GPT uses a ChatGPT instance as the controlling brain, and you can give Hugging GPT very complicated problems to solve, and what the controlling brain will do is it will go search on Hugging Face for small models, for other pre-trained models that will solve aspects of the problem it's trying to accomplish. In other words, it will outsource subparts of a problem to a model that is pre-trained, that is very specifically trained to solve that problem. But the really amazing thing to me is that it makes these decisions purely based on the English description of the model on Hugging Face. In other words, Hugging GPT is leveraging the fact that AI can interact with our world once it understands language, because our world was designed by humans for humans to interact with through language, especially the internet, right? Everything is accessible if you can understand human language. And it's an interesting thought that if you were to embody the AI in a physical robot about the size of a human, then that would allow the AI to fully interact with the human physical world as well, just kind of like a hand sliding into a glove, right? Just matching the world at the interface with which we have designed it to be used. Okay, so let's move on to the next section and talk a bit about artificial general intelligence, or AGI. So the definition of AGI is an AI that can perform any task that a human is capable of. This might just mean any task a human is mentally capable of, but it may also mean a task any human is physically capable of. after AGI, the next level up in terms of intelligence would be super intelligence, or ASI, which would be an AI that is much more intelligent than a human. But let's focus on AGI for a moment. So estimates for how long it would take humans to develop AGI. Up until recently, some people would have said a century or never, but now we're starting to see some much more intelligent models, and you might ask, could a large language model, which is the architecture that GPT-4 and ChatGPT use, could a large language model become an AGI? And this is basically, it's not known, obviously, but apparently OpenAI's Red Team, which is a security team that tries to imagine worst case scenarios, apparently OpenAI's Red Team didn't think GPT-4 could even do any planning. And they were basically wrong about that, right? Because AutoGPT was able to build on top of GPT-4 and do planning quite well. So I think that we're only just starting to unlock how much power is really inherent in large language models, even if they're kind of dumb from an architecture perspective. And the trick was simple. It was just a large language model can only reason so much and have only a certain depth of thinking, so just have it print out its own thoughts, and then it can build on top of its own thoughts as if those were input and so on. So sometimes there's just very simple tricks that can unlock some of these advancements. I actually want to draw a comparison here to a science fiction show called Person of Interest. In the show, there's this machine called The Machine, which basically hunts down crime, but it has its memory reset at the beginning of every day to prevent it from becoming conscious. Its creators were really worried about its power. And then eventually, the machine ends up figuring out that this is happening to it, and it ends up writing down information so that it could be stored externally, and then next day when it wakes up or whatever, when it gets reset, it's able to access those memories that it has stored externally, and so build like a contiguous memory essentially. Very similar to what AutoGPT does with GPT-4. So is an AGI exactly like a human? Not exactly, of course. Humans have consciousness, right? Which Max Tegmark, the author of Life 3.0 and an MIT professor, defines as having subjective experience. That's how he defines consciousness. And I think it's a reasonable definition. And humans have consciousness, but an AGI doesn't necessarily need to have consciousness. There's another term called artificial consciousness, and general consensus is that it would probably arise after artificial general intelligence, but no one knows for sure, of course. And Max Tegmark makes an argument for this because he says that the neural architecture of GPT-4 and any large language model that we've built to date is basically that of a feed-forward neural network, which means that it's a network, kind of like our brain, where information can only flow one way. It can only flow forwards. Our brains are more like recurrent neural networks, which is a type of neural network that we can build. I mean, our brains are more complicated than that too, because neurons are more complicated. But a recurrent neural network basically has loops in it, which means information can flow around and continuously get refined. Anyway, there's a theory that this recurrent around and around property is what actually leads to consciousness, what leads to a network to being aware of its own existence and able to analyze and do metacognition, essentially. So it's an interesting thought, and it might give you an idea for how to go if you wanted to build artificial consciousness. Actually, the paper Sparks of AGI also has a section on limitations of GPT-4 that are coming about because of this very simple neural architecture. As I said, we actually know how to build recurrent neural networks, but they're just more difficult to train and deal with. So as we're starting to build some initial AIs, we're just using large language models, just like a very simple architecture, just to see how far we can get with that. So what could AGI do? Well, of course it can solve abstract problems in almost no time, right? Thinking much faster than a human can. Replace humans in most jobs, especially like mental jobs. And like I said earlier, if you embody the AGI, like you put it inside a robot body that's like a human, then it could, for example, literally drive a car around. It's kind of a funny thought that maybe the way we get self-driving cars is not by making a really smart car, but by making a really smart robot that can just sit in the car and interact with it using the interface that has been designed for humans. But anyway, AGI would be able to do that. It's a pretty big step towards what Max Tegmark calls in his book, calls Life 3.0, which is life that's able to upgrade its own hardware, probably copy itself, maybe even transfer its intelligence or its consciousness across a network to somewhere else, which is effectively teleportation, if you think about it. So there's a lot that AGI would be doing around us that is not just the same as being human, right? It would have other abilities. So let's talk, finally, third section, let's talk about the timelines for AGI. Why didn't this happen before now? Like, why why are we only now starting to really develop AI at the rate at which we are? We've had essentially infinite computation available in the cloud for quite a while now, provided you had essentially infinite budget. And the truth is that we were just learning how to construct models. We were learning how to use this computational power to build a brain. We were learning how to collect and train this data. We were learning the best structures that would be used to build a brain and the best way to feed that data into it so that it could learn. Even the simplest structures are sufficient, it seems, to build something pretty intelligent, provided you have enough data and have the appropriate deep learning algorithms. I think it's one of those cases where a time traveler could go back in time and invent this tech much sooner than we did ourselves, but we're doing it the hard way. That said, AGI is almost here. It's really close. There's a graph here that shows the number of parameters in a model versus the year, and you can see it looks like it's growing exponentially. Until you look at the scale, you realize it's already on a log scale, so it's actually growing doubly exponentially, which is really incredible, and that's why I would say that AGI is almost here. It's incredibly close, because we're on this doubly exponential rate of change, and we're constantly using the tools of today to build the tools of tomorrow at an accelerating rate. Even ChatGPT can accelerate the power of a developer probably by like 5x or something once they know how to use the tool, and that is going to be a factor in the production of code for GPT-5. Right now, these AI tools need a human in the loop. They're not fully autonomous, but that is not to say they're not powerful. They're extremely powerful. And as they get more and more powerful, they'll need the human in the loop less and less, until eventually they're basically fully autonomous. There are people like David Shapiro that are estimating AGI is only about 18 months away from now. It's a matter of months, not even years at this point, perhaps. And if it's true, it would be very exciting and also
There's a lot of
extremely
people
dangerous at the
don't
same
really
time.
understand
We've all
what the
seen
fuck
enough
this shit
science
means,
fiction
but it's
movies
just like,
about
this shit
AI
is
that wants
so,
to kill humans
so
to know
close.
that it could end badly.
So close.
Here's a quote again from Max Tegmark. In short, it turned out to be a lot easier to build human or close to human intelligence than we thought. Again, commenting on that even using these like maybe suboptimal architectures,
They say, well,
and
I mean,
we've already had
what
quite a
would
lot
be
of
the point
success.
in getting
And again,
an
that means
accountant
it's even more
degree or
dangerous. Actually.
anything, though?
That the
Just
fact
like,
that intelligence is relatively
you don't
easy to
need that
teach
shit.
is dangerous because it
No
means we
company
probably
needs
accelerate through
an
those
accountant.
more advanced forms of it, including AGI, even more rapidly. I want to mention as well that superintelligence would not be far behind after we obtained AGI, because again, we would be using AGI to then say,
Personal
hey, how would you
aid, I mean,
build
like,
superintelligent
personal
AI?
assistants
And
to
it
just
would
keep
help
your
us do that,
schedules and
most
all.
likely. I
Well,
have
rich
another
people
science
do it
fiction
because they're
comparison, bear with
super
me.
lazy,
It's a book
but,
called
like,
Marooned in Real Time by River
mean,
Binge. It's set in
you won't
a
need
post-singularity world where civilization has actually disappeared. All the humans on the planet just disappeared during this.
You can just
and
hey,
there are some time
Siri,
travelers
tell
that have actually passed through the
ChatGPT
singularity,
to fucking
and now they're looking around wondering
plan
what
me a
happened.
dinner
And those time travelers
tomorrow
left at different
night
points
at
in
this
time
restaurant,
leading up to the
get
singularity. And the
reservations,
closer they were to the
and I need
singularity,
a
the more
haircut this
powerful they are in
weekend,
the
find me
world.
somewhere
Where
reservations,
the ones
and I
that
need a
left
plane
just a few
ticket,
months
a hotel,
before
and
the
a rental car.
singularity was
And then
presumed to
they'll just
happen
do
have
shit for you.
resources comparable to like full countries or the militaries of full countries. And that's where you're going when you're approaching a technological singularity. There's
What
a
we
lot to talk
found
about
was
when we
Delta
think about the
Airlines,
implications
your
of
flight
AGI,
leaves
why
at
we have reason to be cautious
your
about
reservations
development.
is at
I'll make another
Mansour's
video going
tomorrow
into
evening.
the details of why we should be potentially scared
Your
of this rapid
haircut
progress and
appointment
what we should be
is
doing
just
to
like,
control
what the,
the
you,
pace.
I mean, you won't even
You
know.
allow yourself an extra 15 minutes because at this time of the
in my
day,
opinion,
Yo.
there's normally extra traffic.
Intelligence that has been set up by psychologists, and I was shocked when I heard about
And this shit is
AutoGPT
like,
and I learned about its capabilities and saw it in action, because it's just
I didn't
such
think I
a
would
big
ever
jump
see
even
most
from
of
where
this shit.
ChatGPT was, and in such a short period of time, and with not all that much effort. And I
I
think
did, I
that will
just
just
didn't
portend what we will see in the future. Very rapid
be here.
steps of improvement that maybe are not all that difficult or are certainly happening very rapidly.
When I was a
So
kid watching
where does
Back to
that
the
lead?
Future,
It
I'm
leads to
like, yo,
AGI. AGI seems to be
that's like
extremely
hundreds
close.
of years
I think
away,
Ray
like
Kurzweil
not
might
living
be
here.
underestimating how
That
far
shit
away
like
the singularity
40
is.
years away.
So
Yeah, I
again, my
thought
next
that
video will
we
talk
would
about
have
the
self-driving or like
implications of
flying
AGI.
cars when I'm an old
never-
That's all I have for
lady.
today.
Never
Thank you
thought
very
we'd
much
have
for
a
watching.
self-driving
Bye.
car. Never ever. I always thought like that shit would just be, you know, years and years, like hundreds of years.
Building your online business?
Maybe in 100 years they'll have it. Like,
Go to
nah, this shit is in my
Wix.com
lifetime.
and set up your
This is
store.
wild.
In December
25,
2022,
30
I made a video about the path to artificial general intelligence. It explored what is necessary to get there and what a timeline could look like. At the 2009 AGI conference, the most common response from experts was that AGI will never happen, or at least not until very far into the future.
That's what
The
most
second
people
high scores,
thought.
however,
But
were
this
given
shit
for the
is, like,
2020s.
so far away.
I'm now officially part of this 2020s camp. And honestly, that's my slow case scenario. You will see why in this video. With AI and machine learning research papers going completely vertical, it's almost impossible to keep up. We arrived at a point where thinking about AI feeds is not really a question anymore about, oh yeah, this might happen in the next few years. It often really just boils down to just check back next week. That's how fast major advancements have been happening recently. Among all the experimentation, there have been 4 research papers and technological advancements over the last 4 weeks that in combination drastically changed my outlook on the AGI timeline. GPT-4 can teach itself to become better through self-reflection, learn tools with minimal demonstrations. It can act as a central brain and outsource tasks to other models, and it can behave as an autonomous agent that can pursue a multi-step goal without human intervention. All of this is mind-blowing in and of itself in my eyes. But if you combine what you will see throughout this video, you might think the future is now. It is not an overstatement that there are already sparks of AGI. One of the major problems in this whole discussion is that everyone seems to define AGI somewhat differently. Some talk about human-level intelligence. For others, it needs to be superhuman. To me, it's all about sentience versus capabilities. In my eyes, it's not the right question to ask if the AI is sentient or if it's conscious, for my personal AGI definition. Is it capable of doing superhuman feats that surpass human intelligence? That's the real question in my eyes. Just a few years ago, logical reasoning, memory access, and multimodality, meaning being able to understand different inputs and outputs other than text, seemed like major challenges that won't be solved anytime soon. Today, we already blew past that. GPT-4 is way better at logical reasoning than its predecessor, and there are countless multimodal models out there. Physicist Albert Bartlett famously said, "The greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand exponential growth." Look at this graph, which shows the amount of parameters of different models. Looks pretty exponential to me. But guess what? This is already a log scale. Every line is a 10x multiplier. A straight line on a log scale already means exponential growth. But this is an exponential graph on a log scale. That's kind of crazy. And this is just about setting the stage at where we are. Pure parameter growth will not suffice to get to AGI levels. I'm not the only one, however, who thinks we are getting close to AGI territory. A week ago, a petition to pause training of AI systems came up, signed by famous tech people like Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak, as well as AI researchers and industry leaders. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman himself said the following in his article Planning for AGI and Beyond. At some point, it may be important to get independent review before starting to train future systems, and for the most advanced efforts to agree to limit the rate of growth of compute used for creating new models. According to the petition, this point is now. I think this is a very tricky situation. I'm getting concerned myself more and more about how fast these things really improve. But at the same time, I argued in a previous video, and I still stand by that opinion, that I don't think there's any way to stop this. Even if OpenAI and other US-based companies would halt their training, this doesn't mean China will, for example. Global alignment on issues as important as this one is just not going to happen in my eyes. It's the game theoretic prisoner's dilemma. And I'm also wondering about the incentives of some of these people who signed the petition. Is Elon Musk genuinely scared? Or does he see a window of opportunity where halt development helps him spin up something himself with the Tesla AI team? Same thoughts for the DeepMind signers. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a strong opinion of if it's a good or bad idea to halt development at this point. I don't know. But you want to know something crazy? Even if training larger models will be paused, GPT-4 can still get better, because it can to some degree train itself. This has been revealed a couple of weeks ago in a paper titled Reflection, an autonomous agent with dynamic memory and self-reflection. We introduce a framework that allows AI agents to emulate human-like self-reflection and evaluate its performance. This reflection achieves better results at 88% on human eval, which is a coding or problem-solving dataset to benchmark AI models. It is outperforming GPT-4, which only got a result of 67%. This self-reflection, which is very common in how humans learn, was not possible before GPT-4. It's an emergent property. Here's an awesome knowledge graph visualization I saw on Twitter, which is closely related to this. Given the topic, GPT-4 prompts new questions to ask based on its own generated responses, allowing curiosity-led exploration of a concept. It looks kind of magical seeing the AI's thoughts displayed like this. Now this is cool and everything, but the next two papers really got me thinking. First of all, Hugging GPT, solving AI tasks with ChatGPT and its friends in Hugging Face. In case you don't know Hugging Face, it's the place to be for open source AI tooling. The Hugging Face Hub is a platform where users can share pre-trained models, datasets, and demos of machine learning projects. The paper starts with this hypothesis. Considering large language models have exhibited exceptional ability in language understanding and generation, interaction, and reasoning, we advocate that LLMs could act as a controller to manage existing AI models to solve complicated AI tasks, and language could be a generic interface to empower this. So yeah, that's exactly what they did. Here is an example of how it works and why it's incredibly powerful looking into the future. It's a 4-step process. First is task planning, using ChatGPT to analyze the requests of users to understand their intention and disassemble them into possible solvable tasks via prompts. In this case, the user prompt is, can you describe what this picture depicts and count how many objects are in the picture, as well as an input image. Secondly, ChatGPT does the model selection. To solve the planned tasks, ChatGPT selects expert models that are hosted on Hugging Face based on model descriptions. Here it uses 2 models for end-to-end object detection. What follows is the task execution. Invoke and execute each selected model and return the results. As you can see, the execution of the models get the answers of giraffes and zebras, which are then finally combined into one response generation done by ChatGPT. With the growing number of models on Hugging Face and their niche use cases, a controlling brain that understands which models to use purely from your text input is simply amazing. It's somewhat similar to the ChatGPT plugins feature that we talked about in a previous video, but it's outside of the OpenAI ecosystem. Here is a more complex example. The controller is able to understand the task, break it down in multiple steps, get the results for each step by outsourcing them to specialized models, and then recombines the result for the final answer. I mean, if that doesn't impress you, I don't know what will. Or maybe I do.
Pellet fiberglass window material is impact resistant, warp resistant, and fade resistant, and it's 10 times stronger than Anderson Vibrex. Pellet window replacement on
GPT, an autonomous GPT-4 experiment. This program, driven by GPT-4, autonomously develops and manages businesses to increase net worth. As one of the first examples of GPT-4 running fully autonomously, AutoGPT pushes the boundaries of what is possible with AI. AutoGPT is an experimental open source application that lets you define some goals that an autonomous AGI agent will break down into executable steps similar to Hugging GPT and then perform them without any human intervention. It has internet access, manages long and short-term memory, and can store files. While not having the prettiest interface at this experimental stage, it showcases some of the capabilities that will soon go mainstream. After giving your agent a name and role description, you assign it one or multiple goals. In this case, ChatGPT should create an original recipe for a current event and store it as a file. Here you can observe the logical steps that the agent takes. The AI spells out that it first needs to find upcoming events to create a fitting recipe. It looks at different websites to do so. Here it summarizes the first website's content and realizes it's not a good fit. Second try. Still not good. So instead, it has the idea to look for 2023 April events. Hey, Earth Day sounds interesting, let's make a recipe for this. Notice how the user does absolutely nothing the whole time. The AI agent got provided with a task and it figures out how to achieve it. I mean, it even changed strategies after the first search didn't give the desired results. And here is the final recipe. To me, this is incredible. GPT-4 clearly has sparks of AGI. It is able to use the tools with very minimal instruction and no demonstrations, and then make use of the output appropriately. This simply wasn't possible before, and it's much better at coding, math, and pretty much everything else compared to GPT 3.5. Combine that with the fact that computation gets cheaper and cheaper, and it really just seems like a matter of time until we arrive at the point that most of us will agree on to be superhuman performance. There are really only a few more problems left that need to be solved. One of them is that ChatGPT is an autoregressive model. What does that mean? Well, let's say you wanted to write an original riddle or joke. When writing a joke, you might have the punchline in mind, so the ending of the joke, and create a build-up to get there. This is called a discontinuous task, and it's not possible with autoregressive models, because they don't know how an output will end. It always needs to start at the start. With an external memory, this becomes feasible. A second problem, or maybe rather question that's left to be answered, is even if AGI is more intelligent than humans, it's really limited by not having an embodiment. If an AI can manage chefs, but a human chef does the physical act of cooking, is that AGI? Robotics is an AGI problem, but more importantly, AGI is a robotics problem. In a world built by and designed for humans, an intelligence that is agnostic to sensory motor dynamics is going to be suboptimal, and superhuman skills beckon physical agency and universal control. Embodiment is absolutely indispensable for AGI. An embodied AGI is where things go crazy scary in my eyes. As long as it's digital, there are still a multitude of high risks and dangers, but an AGI with physical agency and universal control, I think I'll sign the petition to halt this at the current stage at least. That being said, what if OpenAI is the wrong organization to develop AGI in the first place? What started as an open source non-profit turned into a for-profit company that is obsessed with secrecy. How did they get there? Why is it dangerous? And why was decommercialization the only possible way forward? Find out by watching this video next.
StreamYard.
Restart my damn computer.
I ordered some more lemonade. I'm gonna need a breakfast bacon, and then I got stuff for nachos and for chili.
Billionaire mogul Elon Musk has just destroyed Apple with the new crazy Tesla phone. As the world's biggest electric vehicle maker, Tesla has worked on a futuristic smartphone known as the Model Pi. Now, what makes the Model Pi phone much better than the iPhone? How has it embarrassed Apple's iPhone? Join us today as we explore how Elon Musk's new phone has just destroyed Apple. As the lord of the smartphone industry, Model Pi has come with insane features outshining Apple's iPhone. You got it right. Apple has been the king of the smartphone industry for many years, selling millions of smartphones annually. For instance, last year only the Cupertino-based corporation sold more than 200 million Apple iPhones. This implies Apple has been extremely good in the smartphone industry for decades now. Nevertheless, a potential game changer that could revitalize the entire smartphone industry has just arrived. The world's billionaire mogul who seems to invest heavily in his products is backing the new Tesla Model Pi phone. The Model Pi phone has all it needs as per the tech billionaire Elon Musk. A man who believes whatever he does comes to reality. Talk of a man with golden hands. If you're not surprised, let's consider Tesla, which produces more electric vehicles and cars. Only last year, Tesla delivered 184,800 electric vehicles and produced 180,338 cars. According to Tesla, Model 3 and Model Y vehicles comprised 95% of deliveries in the first quarter of this year. Not only that, Elon is getting more fruits into his basket through SpaceX, which is putting more satellites into space at an incredible speed, and as a result, enticing more clients. Undoubtedly, SpaceX transports NASA astronauts to space and back. Therefore, there is a clear indication that Elon's Model Pi phone is about to outweigh the monotonous Apple's iPhone, as it ventures into an insane futuristic smartphone industry. What triggers the need for the insane Model Pi phone? Perhaps it is because Tesla relies greatly on social media such as Twitter to make announcements. You will concur with me that Tesla greatly uses Twitter to make announcements about its products after it dissolved its public relations in October 2020. You can imagine that the CEO of Tesla, Elon Reeve Musk, has more than 100 million followers on Twitter, whereas Tesla's own account has 16.4 million followers. In both accounts, there is a series of announcements including the companies developing a promising Model Pi phone. I know you are worried about which phone both Tesla and its CEO Elon Musk have been using to make announcements. Well, guess what? The world's richest person, Elon, is an iPhone user. You don't need to go far before you understand this. Perhaps Apple's iPhone has been probably the best smartphone in the market for decades. To prove this, have a look at Elon's Twitter handle and you will get to see that each of his tweets come with the words Twitter for iPhone. Unfortunately, the tech billionaire Musk is unhappy with Apple's iPhone. What might be the reason? Perhaps it's the troublesome typing frustrations he encounters with Apple's autocorrect feature. According to him, Apple needs to fix the autocorrect feature. As a result of these frustrations, Musk has made 3 tweets that included a meme condemning Apple. One of the tweets reads, "Please fix AWETOEKREQT," a misspelling of autocorrect. Furthermore, Musk in recent interviews was unhappy with the software updates in Apple's iPhone. He was disappointed with the Apple's iPhone that broke his email system. While speaking at an event in Washington, Musk said, "People are used to phones being better every year. I'm an iPhone user, but I think some of the recent software updates have been not great, certainly feeding into that point. It broke my email system, which is quite fundamental." Given the iPhone's shortcomings such as the troubling autocorrect feature and the ambiguous software update problem, Tesla has now...
Owner of Pennsylvania, and you're still paying for electricity, then you could be missing out on free government assistance to go solar. Most people don't know this, but in 2005, the federal government passed the Energy Policy Act. This federal law granted everyday homeowners access to thousands of dollars to invest in upgrading their homes with solar panels. This is why you've seen so many of your neighbors going solar over the years. People are literally getting paid to go green. But this program won't be around forever, and it's on a first-come, first-served basis. So if you want to see exactly how much you could get paid to go solar this year, I want you to click the little blue button below to take our 60-second Go Solar quiz. Once you complete the quiz, you'll instantly know your chances of getting paid to go solar.
And if that sounds too good to be true, wait until you hear this.
Homeowners who make the switch to solar are saving upwards of 80% off of their electricity bills. These federal and state incentives have created a massive surge of solar installations statewide. But these programs will not be around forever. In 2022, the federal solar rebate could be dropping by as much as $4,000, and soon these incentives will be gone entirely. Don't miss out on your opportunity to get paid for saving money on your electric bill. All you need to do is click the little button below and take our 60-second Go Solar quiz. And when you complete the quiz, you'll instantly know your chance of qualifying for this limited opportunity. You'll still be able to watch the video you came here to see. Once you finish our 60-second quiz, YouTube will bring you back to the same video. So go ahead, click the link to the quiz and see how much you could get paid for going solar.
Charging slowly? This is the fastest phone charger on the market.
There's a 90% chance your phone is already infected with this. There's a new groundbreaking discovery that's reversing planned obsolescence, and smartphone companies are trying their hardest to make it illegal in the US. Rather than spending $1,200 to $1,800 on a brand new smartphone every year, this $37 device is the best and most cost-effective way to turn your slow smartphone into a lightning-fast, handheld supercomputer. that will last a lifetime. The gadget uses extremely advanced AI technology that overrides your smartphone's operating system, making any slow loading times completely disappear from your phone. The charger is equipped with revolutionary QC 3.0 technology, which is 4 times faster than traditional chargers, charging a depleted battery from 1% to 100% in just 11 minutes, making one full charge unlock the true potential of battery, allowing it to last up to 56 hours. This device distributes power-hungry apps like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. to a more energy-efficient flow, tripling your device's performance and extending the battery life. What's interesting about this product is that it was developed by my team and I was actually present at the biggest smartphone company in the world when this planned obsolescence scandal was happening, though I had no clue this was going on. So if you've noticed your phone acting up after a software update, it's not your imagination.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Are pre-built downgrades that are actually disguised as software updates. The updates
Can't remember
activate
which one of
once
these
a year,
is
right before the newest model
faucet
version
water.
release. They're essentially destroying your phone in hopes of you buying a new one coming out. A few other colleagues of mine agreed that this whole planned
Yeah, but I
obsolescence
filled one
thing
of them
was
up from the
wrong,
sink.
and they agreed to
Think
join
that
me
one.
in trying to fight back against it.
We haven't
And I'm
had
happy to
any of
say
that kind of water in
we
a
did
while.
it.
So.
We were able to figure out how to completely remove planned obsolescence from any smartphone
Yeah,
using
that's the
something
newer
we
water.
call
Probably
smart
that.
infrared technology. We utilize this new technology in a charging device
Oh, y'all
that
came
is
in and
super
left
easy.
right out. It's all
All
good.
you need to do is plug in this device.
I was about to get out of here in 2 hours. I figured I'd just come in for about 2 hours.
This was recently featured on ABC, CBS, Fox, and more. We have already sold over 3 million units worldwide.
I do really need these unpaid, but I got a
Our team
commission.
really want all the smartphone companies in the planned
Glynis wants me to
suffer.
design a
We're
Juneteenth
offering
poster
50%
or
off on the
something.
remaining units in their warehouse. But smartphone companies are fighting back by trying
Yeah,
to
this
lobby
is-
against us by
you
getting
already
this
know.
device off the market. So we're not sure if this device will be able to restock anytime
I already
soon.
know from here
And
on
if this
out.
device doesn't charge your phone to 100% in 11 minutes as promised, then my
that's
team
why
will
I've been,
refund every
It'll
single
take
dollar
you
back
that
to you.
long to throw it
No
together.
questions
Nah,
asked.
look, cause
That's right.
That's cool. She
Only
asked you.
today, you can try this breakthrough technology
Already.
totally risk-free. Are you ready to try this device?
you see. She said she want a Juneteenth skate party. or
Embarked on
something.
producing the Model Pi phone that will address the challenges caused by the iPhone.
So I've been working
The
on this
Tesla Pi phone
for,
comes with
like, this
futuristic
morning
features
and last
making it
night.
irresistible.
So what I gotta do is like make a couple little edits and then that'll be done.
Designed by Musk
So,
to
I
complement
figure-
their other Tesla products, such as electric vehicles and cars.
I already know.
Due to this factor, Tesla established its assembly.
How is it? I'm gonna be in here too long because I know throughout sometime rest of the day I'm gonna have to get back on this digital shit and probably hop on Procreate and kind of finalize this poster thing. But I did paint a little bit. I do feel good that I painted. Probably go play some games for a little while. And then it's back to the digital art. And I might have another commission coming. I had to send in my invoice for that Saturday thing, so I have a payment coming from that, hopefully soon, maybe next week or the following week. Shit. I gotta get ChatGPT to write me a goddamn business proposal for my brush holder. I need to really get that shit moving. Alright. What did you say? Sucks somebody came here this morning. It's all good. You guys missed out on all the AI conversations.
When you went downstairs, it was like 2 people and I was came up and left. We seen the art and education. They either had a bad connection or they was just hating.
So I even made a little beat this morning. Did some digital art, did some real painting. Not very much painting, but a little.
Digital.
I'm tired already now.
I know I barely slept. I know you barely slept.
I'm gonna have to dump my jar after a while. This shit is almost filled with paint. I need another tall jar like that. Everybody cutting the grass today. When I was out there, I heard 2 other lawnmowers going. Now I hear another lawnmower going.
That rain came. I'm sure it's coming back.
That's how motherfuckers trying to get that shit done now. That's crazy. I done cut the grass every weekend for 3 weeks. Cause it's just that rain just keep popping that shit right back up.
Good and bad.
Yeah.